So, if many of you may have heard, obviously, the huge groundbreaking news that kicked off today. Hulkenberg got a podium. That's what everyone's talking about, right?
Welcome to the Blatantly Biased Racing Podcast. Now here's a bald guy and some Indian.
Maybe
Hey,
a day
man.
too late, right? I'm actually pissed
Yeah.
off. I'm pissed off at Red Bull because the entire podcast was
They've-
going to be about Nico Hulkenberg.
They've ruined Hulkenberg's podium week. This is ridiculous. I'm sure we'll touch on it, but we've got a good bit to talk about first, right?
Let's talk about first the elephant in the room, or what is it called?
the elephant
in the
who's
fridge.
been kicked out of the room. Who
Yeah, seems like it.
Yeah, who may have been
Let's
the
jump
stabilizing
straight to
factor.
it then, yeah. First of all, what was your initial reaction? Let's start with that.
Initial reaction was it wasn't all that kind of unexpected. To be honest, it was expected.
You've been
I-
talking about it quite a bit.
Yeah,
Actually,
I wasn't expecting it now. I thought it would come at the end of the season,
Mm-hmm.
but it did seem like it was getting to a decision between do you keep Horner or do you keep Verstappen? And the reason it was becoming more and more expected is we were hearing that essentially the board was kind of having more and more control. And boards in Formula One tend to do really, really stupid things because they think in 3-month timelines. And when you're thinking in 3-month timelines, keeping Verstappen makes sense. But if you're thinking like, okay, let's think of the 5 to 10 year future of this team, then obviously the decision is you pick Horner. So, and I've seen this in all of my comments on anything I've put today. It's like, if the decision's Horner and Verstappen, you obviously pick Verstappen. I'm like, sure, for the next 6 months. But like, if we're talking the next 6
after
years,
that?
yeah, like if we're talking the next 6 years, Verstappen's probably not going to be there in 6 years, regardless of what happens. So like,
1 year.
yeah, well, like even if they turn things around and won a couple more championships, in 6 or 7 years, he's gone anyway. So what then? You know what I mean? So you're picking the short-term solution. And it's unlikely that that's the case. But yeah, I've kind of seen this coming because the board seems... And honestly, we'll talk about this, I guess, in a while. But honestly, it seems like 2022, they've been making rasher and rasher decisions. And it's just caused this headbutting. And it's kind of... It was inevitably going to crack because it's a war that, unless Horner got a ton of people in with a ton of money to buy it, he wasn't going to win in the long term anyway. Unless the Thai
Seems
side...
like it, yeah.
Yeah, unless the Thai side really wanted to go to war. And they really just seemed like we don't really care that much about, like, if the racing team's making us money, fine. If it's not, then we don't care. Like, get rid of it, whatever. So, yeah. What's your thoughts on this?
Yours was Verstappen. That was my first thought.
Yeah.
And just to put all the cards on the table, the news was broken by a Dutch outlet. You know
it wasn't
the name.
Eric, was it?
Yeah, the name Eric. The
Of
EVH
course.
initials,
Yeah, of course
you
it
know.
was. Well,
It was broken by that. And it was broken 15 minutes before the official announcement was made. Then you had another particular article which had exclusive Red Bull quotes. They were again first published by that particular publication. Then Max Verstappen's manager, again in those 15-minute intervals, then it was the Max Verstappen manager giving his take on what had happened. It's unless you're fucking dumb, you know what's going on.
Well,
here.
I mean, doesn't that just back up exactly what I just said, which is that, yeah, it's just the board thinking short term again. They think that keeping the driver is a better decision than keeping
Jos
the team
Verstappen
together.
and Helmut Marko won the battle. It's as simple as that. And looking at the way they've gone about it, look, for me, what I thought, again, Auto Motor and Sport, AMUS, they had reported a few weeks back that the Verstappen family had given an ultimatum that it was either going to be Max, either it was going to be Max and the whole thing, or Horner.
Yeah.
Seems like so my first reaction when ultimately the whole thing kind of settled down, I kind of started putting the pieces together, and you can see it happen. Canada was the first weekend when it came out that there were conversations. Then George also admitted that this was going to happen. Then
Yeah.
you had the Italian publication saying that Max has expressed interest. He's almost on the verge of signing. And then you have this come out. It's not a coincidence that all of these things are happening. What I would be keen to look at is whether Max ultimately reaffirms his commitment to Red Bull, or it is still up in the air because he hasn't made it official. The announcement, they've said they'll make it around the summer break. Now the summer break is, he could go to Mercedes, or he could stick around at Red Bull.
Because Mercedes have now apparently as well had full sign off from the board of the actual Mercedes company.
No,
to say,
that's an utter rubbish report. That's
It's not
from
real, is it
Gazzetta.
not?
That's from La
Okay.
Gazzetta. And when a report is from there, unless and until it's for Ferrari, it's utter garbage.
okay, cool. Yeah, I
As
was on the
simple as
road
that.
this morning and I saw it kind of briefly on Twitter. So
Yeah.
okay.
102 million buyout, and it's like, who are you kidding? Who are you
Okay.
kidding here?
Interesting,
And that is an utter rubbish report.
Yeah, I mean, look, it could well be true, but it's very unlikely given it's from
It
that.
could be. It
you
could
know.
be until and unless
just an
someone else
unlikely
picks up
source.
on it and reply and actually, confirms that this is something that is happening. I'm not going to take their word for it, especially when it comes to something where they have zero sources. They have zero
Yeah.
sources at either Mercedes or with Max.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if I had to make a pick, I would say that the Verstappens have won.
Yeah.
And what that means is Max is going to stay at Red Bull. I also want to see that, does this mean that Max has made a commitment that all the exit clauses are gone? If the board is smart, they're stupid. First of all, it is an utterly foolish decision that they've made. I'll look. Let's get one
Every
thing
decision they've made since we'll probably talk about this more with the Red Bull future, but like every decision they've made since 2022 has been utterly ridiculous
utterly
in many
foolish,
senses.
utterly foolish, utterly
Short-term.
short-sighted,
All short-term.
and everything is short-term. And look, the racing wisdom tells you to do entirely opposite thing. They've outdone Ferrari. This is how foolish this decision is. You know why? Ferrari, you have Fred Vasseur, who is on the verge of losing his job as well, by the way. And he is on the verge of losing his job after going 3 years without a title. You know, when was the last time Horner won the title? 6 months back.
Yes.
And he's been fired when he won the title 6 months back. Try to make sense of this. He was
problem
fired
with this-
6 months after he won the title.
The problem with all of this is that, like, right, I've constantly seen it on my YouTube channel, on this YouTube channel, on Twitter, constantly. A lot of people with Dutch flags and Jos Verstappen photos, basically thinking that
You're not Jos Verstappen. No one has.
I know, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Everyone has that level of self-respect. They're not going to put his photo.
But like,
I mean, if you do, by the way, if you are there,
comment
it's
below.
all
We
right.
want to see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, just all of them have essentially tied the entire quote unquote downfall of this team to Christian Horner, right? And I can't help but just continuously see and continuously reiterate that, first of all, it's not been a massive, like, everyone's talking about this huge, like, drop off, downfall. McLaren got faster. They were backed into a corner in the last season of a regulation set. That's what happened. That is not a massive, like, that is not a Ferrari or McLaren level downfall. That is literally one other team did a better
McLaren
job
is
in a
not
season.
there, Max Verstappen is winning the title again this season.
In both this season as well, like, without issue. So McLaren jumped ahead. Like, look where Mercedes are. The team that, by the way, everyone's like clamoring, Max should go to Mercedes. Mercedes, who neither of the drivers are ahead of Max and don't seem to understand where their fucking car is weekend to weekend. So even if they get a good engine, it's no guarantee that they beat McLaren, for example, as we've discussed on this. So this quote unquote downfall has been massively overblown. And also, it's brought about because they're like, yeah, well, look where the second driver is. It's clearly just Max in the car. Because the car has been built towards Max constantly, which it has been, but also they had to push even further in that direction because of McLaren catching up and the time limit left. So they didn't have the option to go, well, let's build a nice balance. It's like, no, we need to get a car that Max can win it. The second thing is, if you really want to blame someone, you have to blame the board, because it's not even Horner that's caused this, as I said, downfall. Horner has his part in it, sure, but all of this was from 2022 when it got taken over by, after Dietrich died, the board obviously wanted to get more and more control. Then Helmut kind of joined in with them, the Austrian board. And the board didn't at any point when there was this, scandal with Horner, didn't at any point go, we should keep this under wraps. They leveled on. Jos went into the papers. They backed on behind them.
Okay, now that's where actually I wanted to touch on, because a lot of people have no idea the kind of things that go on in the Formula One world. Mm-hmm. The amount of sex scandals that don't make it to the news, you have no. It's an everyday thing. Okay, just just pulling the curtain a bit. Every day, almost every publication is reached out by someone from a Formula One team regarding some scandal or the other.
Yep.
We've been at Sportskeeda, we've also had this. Mm-hmm. And the reason why those don't get published is because, first of all, it's not ethical. Mm-hmm. Second of all, we are not at the luxury of investigating those things and putting it out as clearly as possible, right? And we can also get there are clear
you need very reputable sources to publish something like that without having severe blowback, especially from a company like Red Bull, who could literally sue a publication into the ground if it hasn't followed those things. Journalists can
let's talk.
Journalists can say things, but they have to have something to back them up. You've got journalistic freedom as long as you're not just making things up. And if you can't get a proper source, then a company like that's going to
the source in that case as well. If
you're like a company like that's going to destroy
slanderous, you have to reveal the sources.
The reason that all got out into the public is because the board and Jos decided to put it out in the public.
No, Jos and there are two publications that
maybe
came
not the
out,
board, but not someone in Red Bull.
The two publications came out from that very day when the whole thing broke out. There were only two publications that made their way.
The Telegraph, right?
The Telegraph and the F1 Insider.
Mm-hmm.
Go and check the affiliation of where both of those publications are, because I did on that very day when that happened, and since then I have followed the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's basically one side, and look, maybe, and a lot of people have a lot of things to say. Why Newey left, why Jonathan Wheatley left, etc., etc. There are reasons behind it, but the biggest thing is the reason why all those things kept coming back into the news again and again and again, why that leak happened, why the evidence was out in the public. It had nothing to do with Horner. It came out from the other party. Now, whichever that other party is, you're smart enough to know that.
So look,
only one destabilizing factor was there, and it was not Horner.
And look, the thing is, this is not to back up, because, I know Horner got cleared, but that said, we don't know whether he did what they said he did or not. We don't know any of that. So my point is, this is not to back up Horner and say that he's this great guy my point is, clearly...
He's a prick. First of all, he's a prick.
And most of these guys
have no idea. Look, first of all, we have no idea how what his thing was with whoever the concerned person was. The thing is, he's a married person with kids.
Yeah.
So whatever that conduct was, it's unbecoming of a husband, at least on a very, very basic level.
Look, it's not, and this is the thing. If we want to get into this, is the problem is, like, what I'm saying here is, I'm not talking about like the personalities here, but if we're just talking in terms of just running a Formula One team pragmatically, forgetting about all of the personal insights and so on, right? The reason that was thrust into the limelight, and the reason when it was thrust into the limelight, the board didn't kind of try and fucking calm things down, is because clearly there was, as we all know, that political power play.
Father was running rampant.
Yeah, and there was this political power play of the board wanted more control after 2022, all of these things. And essentially, I think, like, you can call a lot of that the reason for Newey specifically moving on is, sure, there may be some truth to he wasn't happy with what Horner was doing.
Yeah.
Sure. There probably was. But he also probably was more unsettled with the fact that all of a sudden Red Bull was essentially in the center of a telenovela, something that, like, Newey just doesn't like to be into those things. So I think if that had have been handled under the radar, it would have been a calm conversation between Newey and Horner, and Newey probably wouldn't have left, you know? Yeah. So a lot of it, like you can blame Horner all the time, but a lot of this is Jos and then the board not doing its job because it's all short-term thinking. They are probably thinking to themselves, right, well, Jos is going off on one and this actually helps us because if Horner goes, we get more
Jos
control.
has a personal vendetta against Horner. That's
Yeah.
why he has it. It's not public knowledge. It will come out maybe soon. But
Okay.
there are some stuff that are there. It's just, look, what ultimately it comes down to is there was a political battle and one side won.
Yeah.
Now, what we need to see from here is...
And they were always going to win regardless. It was just a matter of time.
Exactly. And Horner tried to hold on to it as much as he could. Look, there are a lot of things I've seen, but if there is someone who has won you 14 titles in 20 years and you think you're going to fire him and then things are going to work well, you're in for a surprise, and they are in for a surprise.
But it's just
utterly foolish.
This has never worked out. Like, I don't know why. Like, I see it not... Like, I get why I see it from... For example, there was a YouTube comment on a video I put out a week ago or something where I talked about how the Verstappens were potentially... I think it was a clip from a video saying that the Verstappens were potentially trying to push Horner out. And I said how short-sighted it was and all this. And one of the comments was, Red Bull is so big, the team principal does nothing anyway. Like, what are you talking about?
Was it Backsteve?
No, this was someone, just a random commenter who happened to have a Dutch name on my YouTube video.
Yeah.
Because I immediately saw the name. I was like, oh, okay, I wonder where this guy's from. No offense, Dutch people, but it seems to be the running trend. But yeah, like, it's just anyone who thinks that as a fan on Twitter, I'm kind of like, yeah, fair enough. People think these stupid things all the time.
Yeah.
For Red Bull to think like this, having literally watched Ferrari fall from existence, like having literally seen how much effort and how much time it took after McLaren got rid of a team principal who, frankly, in that case, needed to go, right?
Yeah.
Like Ron Dennis needed to go.
He was senile. He was 70 years of age.
And just he's doing a terrible job at that point anyway.
Yeah.
But even in that situation, look how long it took for McLaren to come back. Yeah. Again, Williams, you could argue, needed to go. Look how long it took for them to come back. Yeah. And then people will point out, yeah, but Red Bull has tons of money. Ferrari has unlimited money. Look how long it's taken for them to come. Oh, wait, they haven't come back yet. And people will point out, like,
oh, well, Mercedes.
Sure, yeah.
4 years, nothing.
And that was built on a solid foundation.
They've been whipped by McLaren for the last 3 seasons. And just we are supposed to believe, okay, out of the blue, they'll have the power unit, and just out of magic, just because it is not ground effect error. And apparently this word ground effect error has been used as such a boogeyman by a lot of people.
But in that case, that's keeping the team principal, and it's still difficult. But they've lost a lot of key staff there.
Imagine if Toto Wolff was fired.
If Toto Wolff was fired, there would be no hope of that team turning around by 2020.
Exactly.
In fact, there's a good chance it would have been bought over because Mercedes probably would have went, well, we only own 33%. Let's start backing away from this, you know?
Exactly.
But Ferrari is the key example. Like, and again, to those people who are like, yeah, but Red Bull's this huge organization with tons of money. Again, there's just countless examples of this. The simple fact is, the way F1 teams succeed, and this is just proven time and time again, is you get a big company or a big sponsor or a big billionaire to come in, and when it starts to succeed is when they find the right people and they go, okay, Nui Cowell, for example, as right now, you guys are in charge. Here's a blank check. Come to me when you need anything. I trust you. All of a sudden, things start turning. Sauber, okay, tries to be run by the board with, a ton of money behind it for a couple of years as Audi takes over. Falls to shit. Finally, they say, Wheatley, Mattia, here's a blank check. Come to us when you need something. You guys are in charge. All of a sudden, Nico's on the fucking podium, right? You try to run things by a board, that's not going to happen. And now everyone's saying, well, Mekies has taken over, all of this, whatnot. It's like, sure. But the moment Mekies stops performing, the moment they have a 3 or 4 month, like it could be by the end of this fucking season, if things don't turn around, all of a sudden it's like, well, Mekies wasn't doing the job, so we've put someone new in. And it's going to be a continuous cycle now.
I think it's very simple. I mean, there's a very,
and I
very
like
simple
Mekies, by the way. I think he's a very good decision, but it's just not going to work.
It's a good decision.
The whole thing's a bad decision. Yeah. It's just if you're picking anyone to replace, I'm glad they didn't just randomly go, oh, grab that guy. At least they've grabbed someone who has some knowledge of the situation.
I mean, there's a very simple way, and it's hilarious because I was slightly pissed when the whole thing happened, and my wife and I were having lunch, and I tried to explain it to her in a very, very simple layman language who does not follow Formula One. So here's how I did. If in common life, in general life, if you have to get six-pack abs and you have to be fit, what do you need to do? You need to cut down on carbs. You need to start working out. You need to cut down on fats. Start
less shit,
eating
work out more.
protein.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So what that does is it slowly takes the fat away, and ultimately you have a good working physique. How does a Formula One team work? Just like this, you pick up first key constituents. Like you have a team, you have a leader who's a proven leader, or in case of Horner, he wasn't a proven leader. You ultimately take him, back him to the hilt, give him time so that he can get things done.
Yeah.
And that model always works. You know what doesn't? Changing people every 3 years.
Yeah.
That is what doesn't work. And first of all, I don't understand what the panic is around Red Bull. I truly do not understand this thing.
This is my whole point.
Mind-boggling right now for me.
I get it from the fans. I don't get it from Red Bull, because fans always, and we've done this, like as fans, we've done this ourselves as well, where literally 1 week, you're like, oh, Lando hit the back of Oscar. That's it. His title championship is over. And then 2 weeks later, Lando could be in on this.
Yeah.
Like we've seen this from everybody. But for a business like Red Bull to do it is like, how are you in Formula One for so long? The thing that blows my mind is
22 years or 23 years. This is the 21st season in Formula One.
Yeah.
They've been through multiple regulations. I think by this point, if you're someone who's a seasoned campaigner, you should know that ups and downs are going to happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that have happened at Red Bull, people have made it all about this guy left, that guy left. Ultimately, everything is wrong. Horner scandal, this, that. No. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it comes down to the car. Wrong decisions were made. They were made, by the way, in 2023. Spain.
Yep.
You know who was part of the team at the time and who was part of the development? Adrian Newey. He was there.
Here's the thing.
And apparently, Vache is shit. Enrico Balbao is shit. Newey did everything.
The simple fact is as well that at that point in time, Newey being there wouldn't have changed anything, because they were planning for the post-Newey situation.
Exactly.
They were building up for that, knowing that was going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether Newey stayed or left, Newey leaving was always a very near future thing. So like the whole thing of just... it just doesn't... It's so short-sighted, because the only person who could actually turn this around, they've just kicked out the door. And I guess we should get on to Verstappen as well. Like,
for what? I mean,
for what? To keep Verstappen, which is,
it is only one
if
reason,
you're thinking
right?
short term.
Just imagine, in case we are both wrong and Verstappen and his camp has nothing to do with all of this.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Max announces that he's going to Mercedes.
Oh, then they're totally fucked.
What the fuck is Red Bull going to do at that point? Which driver in his right mind would like to go to Red Bull that just fired one of the greatest team principals in the modern era? Who is going to go there?
Not any.
What
top
are they
figure.
going to do?
Like, there's not any top tier driver anyway.
No one.
They might be able to pull some like decent driver from the midfield, but they're not going to pull. Like my point is, if you wanted to, you could probably grab like a Pierre Gasly, who's an Alpine. You might grab a Leclerc because he's having mental breakdowns at Ferrari.
I don't think
it's very unlikely.
Red Bull anymore now. Yeah.
But honestly, though, if Verstappen leaves tomorrow, or if Verstappen does leave before the end of this season, then
Red Bull is done.
Oh no, but not even that. Then at that point, I will just have no idea what the fuck this board was thinking, because the only reason to remove Horner right now is to keep Verstappen.
Keep Max.
So if you haven't locked Verstappen down and you've let Horner go, because you keep Max and you say, right, look, if we can keep Max happy, it might give us some short-term results to figure things out, because Max can still drive the car. He still can get some wins over the season. We can save some face, right? But if Max goes and you've left Horner, you've not only killed your long-term, because now you've got to turn the whole ship around with someone who... Again, Laurent Mekies, I'm not bashing him in any terms. It's just he's not going to be able to turn this around overnight. He's going to have to learn everything just like Horner did when he came in
Oh, and by
2005.
the way, just so you know, within next 6 or 8 months, Christian Horner is going to be a
at a
part
different
of a
team.
new Formula One
Yeah.
team.
Probably
And-
for 2026 because he's going to have gardening leave or whatever. Yeah.
And by the way, no, he doesn't. It's
Maybe
with
not.
immediate
If he was
effect.
if he was fired, then fine.
Yeah.
Well, he did say in a speech, I think, that he was operationally down, but he's still here for a while. So there may be
don't know,
some
yeah.
short-term gardening leave. We don't know that yet.
In that case, by the way, just wait and watch and see how many people are going to. There are 6 people that resigned with immediate effect at that very moment when, as soon as the Horner announcement came.
There's others who are going to not sign any longer contracts. They're going to wait and
They're looking for a way out. They already
Yeah.
had signed this thing. If you remember, there's already the entire senior management signed. It was a petition or something that if we are going to fire Horner, we are also going to leave the team.
yeah, they're going to have a
Until now,
massive
there are
brain
6
drain now.
people that have left.
Yeah.
There will be more, and that
Yeah.
is going to be the case. And it's not only the senior management or this. The engineers at Milton Keynes, they adore him like anything. He's venerated by the
Well,
entire
they're going to look at
squad.
They're going to look at a fun new project with Horner wherever he is. See, this is
Exactly.
one of the reasons why. Obviously, a lot of people jumped into Horner to Ferrari. Now, I don't think Horner is mentally insane, so I would assume he's not going to go to Ferrari because he's not going to want to trade one board for an
You
even
saw
worse
this
board.
thing, by the way, that was shared. One of the friend of the podcast, I shared
Probably
it, that comment.
Horner and Lewis, was it?
No,
Shaking hands or
that
something?
no. The some guy commented on the Red Bull post that this
Oh
might be
yes,
something
yeah. That Horner was like looking at Ferrari basically, and then Red
Yeah.
Bull actually muted
in
comments on
2026
it.
he might end up at Ferrari.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be the case because I don't think
I'm guessing
he's-
Alpine personally.
I think Alpine will not be in that capacity, but yes. By the way, before we get to that, let's talk about one thing, which is Max Verstappen's future.
Yeah, let's talk about Max first, and then we can talk about Horner's future. Yeah.
Because okay, I personally think if the Red Bull board, if it has any semblance of, you can say,
This will be the real
acumen.
test, won't it? Because
Yes.
if
I mean,
Max
they failed the test. Let's be very.
no, but sure, but if Max stays, it tells us all right. Well,
No,
as
no.
crazy as they are,
Not for me. Even if he stays until 2026, it's not enough for me.
he has to be there for the long term.
They need to have a long-term
Yeah.
commitment because look, ultimately, what point is it? Because look, 2026 is going to suck for Red Bull anyways.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. They don't have. Maybe they might have a decent enough power unit, but already 6 months into the project, 6 months left, and the person who was heading the power unit project is gone.
And also
Horner is gone.
it's almost a certainty that a lot of key staff will start to fade away now.
They're going
because they're not going to want to stick around under new leadership, and
Yeah.
it's
Because
so,
no one is happy with the decision. I mean, I think even David Croft, they were at Milton Keynes and they said that the kind of sadness that is there right now, it's a bit
I mean,
disconcerting.
like he literally, and they're probably also pissed off as well with the situation of like when you got to think about it from the Milton Keynes point of view is. Last year, the constructors started to fall away, which is, by the way, for anyone wondering, that's where they get all their bonuses from, is the constructors. And Horner basically convinced them all and backed them all to say, right, the constructors is gone, and I know you're going to lose your bonuses, but let's all get behind Max here and get Max the Drivers' Championship. And then for the Verstappens to come in and go, oh, by the way, we don't give a fuck about that guy. Like, which is how it's going to look to them, I'm sure. A lot of them are going to look as, well,
looks
Verstappen
to-
and, yeah.
So, because
And
in
by
my
the way,
view,
they're
if it
probably
is
still
smart-
going to back Max, but I'm sure they're going to be quite annoyed with Yoss and the management team for this.
for sure. And if they are smart in some way, the Red Bull GmbH is actually smart, then they've probably taken a commitment from Max.
I'm
that you'd be
sure.
here
They
for
have
26,
to.
27, 28. See out your contract. No more exit clauses. We are going through a storm. We will recover and get back. But we need your commitment first. If we are going to get rid of
Max
Horner,
doesn't sign that though.
then why are you getting
They've-
rid of
they've
the
signed.
biggest?
They have signed. I guarantee you, they basically thought Max is going to Mercedes at the end of this month. Like,
So-
or not at the end, no, but I'm telling you, I'm guarantee you this is what the board was thinking. They thought to themselves, Max is going to announce his leaving at the end of this month, right?
Yeah.
We are a board, we think 3 months in advance. That is the most insane thing. Can we get him for another year? Okay, cool. What do we need? Get rid of the boss? Yeah, sign it. Again,
If they've done
that is stupidity.
If they've done that,
That is stupidity,
Ferrari
but-
level stupidity.
Oh,
that's
and
actually worse.
And I guarantee you that is what they've done. This is my whole point. Like, I guarantee you
God.
that's what they've done. But it will be even worse if Max leaves at the end of the month. Because then it's like, oh, you did nothing.
Oh God.
Like,
oh God.
you know,
So
like,
there are three
oh,
possibilities, right?
Yeah.
He leaves at the end of the month. He leaves at the end of the season.
By the way,
yeah,
he signs at the end of the month. He leaves next year. But yeah.
The second is he leaves at the end of 2026. And
Which is
third is he
still
stays until
stupid.
2028.
If he stays until 2028, I still think it's a
I
silly
still
move.
understand. Yeah.
It's a silly move, but it
understand.
will be like, okay, I get there was some thinking in this, right?
Yeah.
If he leaves at the end of 2026, it's like, I get why you did it. It was utterly stupid, but I get why you did it. If he decides he's leaving at the end of this month, then it's like what
You
the
tend
fuck
to
were
give
you
more
thinking?
grace to a lot of people.
No, I'm just
don't.
saying I can understand the thinking. I think it's
I can't.
short-sighted. No, it's short-sighted and idiotic thinking.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I can understand the thinking. I'm not saying I agree with the thinking. I'm just saying I can understand where it's coming from. Again, it will be
God.
very bored thinking about things because that's what boards do. And this is just why boards don't work in F1 because they think in quarters, like and at most a year ahead, right? If you're an F1 team, you have to be thinking about 3, 4, 5 year projects. And I've heard people come back to me with, well, obviously boards think 3 to 5 years in advance because they always have these big projects. They don't though. They put these big projects in place as kind of, oh, that's a nice
And
idea.
the CEOs continue to change and again.
That's a nice
and
idea
again.
that we have this 5-year plan. But the moment the 5-year plan isn't on track for 3 months, everything has to change.
Just look at Alpine.
Yeah.
Alpine.
How many
what was their
100
project?
race plans or whatever did they have?
They had a 100 race plan. Otmar Zafnar finished 4th in his first season. He was on track to finish 4th or 5th again.
Yeah.
But he was gone by mid-season. He didn't even last 18 months in what was supposed to be a 5-year
But
plan.
look at all of the teams who've given absolute back. Like, so for example, like if we go to just a jump here to McLaren for a minute. McLaren's turnaround happened when the board finally kind of went, okay, Zach, we believe in you. He kind of got on top. And then slowly Zach was able to kind of fix things properly.
Take time.
Yeah.
Look, Zach
and then
had such
put
a
the
big
right
problem,
people in
isn't it?
place slowly and surely. But if the board had looked at just, which is what Red Bull are doing here, look at an 18-month period, right? If you had looked at McLaren from 21 to 22 in the same way that Red Bull has looked at Red Bull from 23 to or 24 to 25, where we are now, 23, whatever, right? Then Zach would have been
Both
fired.
of them are gone. Zach is gone, Seidel is gone, Stella is
McLaren
gone.
would not be winning the championship right now.
Yeah.
So that is my whole point. Like, if F1 fans, if you're listening to this and you think, well, look at what's happened in the last 18 months, fine. But look at any team over an 18-month period, right? Especially McLaren is the prime example. Look at where McLaren were, right? From 21 to 22. You would fire Zach under the exact same reasoning. And McLaren wouldn't be winning a championship right now.
Take example of Toto Wolff. Take example of Christian Horner as well. 2014, 2015. Red Bull did not win even a single race in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
If we had the current management in place, he would have been fired by now.
Yep.
Right.
You could even say 2019
not
to 2019 to 2020, right? Yes, they won a couple of races, but they were nowhere near a championship. It had been 5 or 6 years since the championship. They fire Christian Horner at that point. Newey is basically gone. Things start to go away. Max doesn't win 21, 22, 23, 24. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
The whole thing. So it's just so short-sighted. You know?
Yeah. Now, tell me
They
something.
literally
'cause
won the championship last year. Like, what?
6 months back. Not even last 6 months back. In 6 months, you are firing the
They've
man
got the second fastest car right now, on average. Like, this is ridiculous. And by the way, for anyone who says, "Oh, it's not the second fastest car; it's the ninth fastest car," Max is actually winning.
That's what I'm going to
just
say. Fuck
idiotic.
you.
Because
Enough.
they're the same
I've
people
had
who
this
went
discussion so many times.
They're the same people who went on Saturday. Look at Red Bull's genius of Max and Red Bull's genius putting that lower rear wing
Not
on,
Max
and then
and
on
Red Bull's,
Sunday,
Max's genius.
Yeah, and then on Sunday, what the fuck were Red Bull thinking? Put that lower rear wing on. Well, hold on, I thought Max was the reason the car is fast. So you're now telling me that Max can't change how fast the car is? Like, it's just.
Yeah.
I can't believe the fans and the board are thinking the same. It's so ridiculous. Like, it's just
And this is something that's going to piss off a lot of Max fans, because if there is truth to the fact, and I think there is a lot of truth to it, because if Max thought Horner was valuable to the team, he would have put his foot down and Horner was not going anywhere. He has had a role to play here for sure.
Well, Max could have put his foot down at any
100%.
point here. Yeah,
And
yeah.
the funniest thing was, so again, the great Dutch publication. So they put, as soon as the whole thing was done, they again put out another report where it said the thoughts or suggestions that the Verstappen camp had anything to do with Horner's ouster is ludicrous.
Oh, come on.
And my reaction was that, okay, so the Verstappen voice piece is saying that Verstappen did not have a role to play in something that could utterly backfire. How convenient, isn't it? But for me, the problem is that, because what does it tell you about? And it's not only limited to Max as well, because I think even Lewis also comes into the picture. But what benefit is there when a driver ends up acting as a team manager? Because that's what he's doing. He's meddling. He's not doing his job. He's saying that I don't want this person in place. I want a person who I prefer, or because I hate this guy, get him out of the way and I'll stick with the team. That's the message that he's giving out.
It just tells you that this, like, I genuinely just think this tells you that a lot of this has nothing to do with performance, because
it's not.
No, because if this had anything to do with performance, why would Helmut Marko still be there? You know what I mean? Like that to me is the proof that performance is not the key priority. It's just keeping certain people happy.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, like, the performance, as Maxwell knows, isn't going to change overnight. So it's clearly a lot of political kind of. It's clear as well that Jos has probably just convinced Max that, look, he's the problem. We have to get rid of him. And to be fair to Max as well, Max seems very, over the course of his career, very much just focused in the on-track performance. But it's just going to be interesting now to see how he reacts when, essentially for 18 months now, he's been convinced by everyone around him, more than likely, that we've got to get rid of Horner to fix things. And if things don't turn around, then what does it tell you about Max as someone who has? I don't think he's dumb. That's the first he's
thing
definitely
that
not
actually
an
comes
idiot.
to my mind.
Like, he's definitely not an idiot.
But this is a move of an idiot. This is something similar to Michael Schumacher orchestrating the departure of Jean Todt.
Yeah, it would have been ruthlessly stupid.
Yeah.
The problem is I think that the difference between, let's say, a Schumacher and a Verstappen here, and I think this is one area where
the lack
Schumacher,
of Verstappen.
Yeah. Well, that's two differences. Yeah, but this is one area where Schumacher had such longevity over his career of being able to kind of go from one team to the next and help them succeed and whatnot. And even like, he didn't perform amazingly at Mercedes, as we all know, at that end of his career, but he did do a lot to help Mercedes develop, right? The thing is, I think Verstappen has always worked, especially because you have to think, like, he came in at such a young age where he's basically, I'll focus on the driving and giving my feedback there, and I'm going to let my team I trust in this team.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's stupidity as much as just that general human thing of, we kind of build a team around us and we put utter confidence in that team. Yeah. And he's probably got utter confidence in his father, who has, as much as I hate Jos, to be fair to him, gotten him to where he is, or gotten him to the grid. He's made some bad decisions after that, but he got him to the grid. Helmut has helped him over the years. All of this team around him has essentially got him to a ton of world championships and, millions and millions of dollars every week, to be honest, right? So they can probably convince him that, look, we know what we're doing and we know Horner's the problem. And he probably just puts a lot of faith in them. And again, I think it's stupidity in but I also understand where he's coming from in that it's not stupidity from his point of view. He's got a team around him that he trusts, and he's hoping they'll come back. In the same way that,
he's a 4-time world champion. He's been in sport for more than a decade. He's close to 30 years of age.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd know, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah. But then 70 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. You think at least half of them would know better. But
I mean, you would have voted for him.
Yeah, I would have. But the option was between a turd and a punch in the face. So
which one is which?
I don't know. They're both.
I'd take anything but Donald Trump.
I don't know. I think both of them are equally terrible. But that's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation. You know why it scares me a bit the way Max has gone about it, because I'm slightly fearful of his future. Every team on the F1 grid has seen what has gone on, and look, people are not stupid. Everyone has seen. I think you might have read it. Red Bull is not a team before 2024. It was never a team whose secrets came out.
Yeah.
It was never a team that had that. Never. Yeah. Since 2024, Telegraph has basically become the gossip column of Red Bull. Mm-hmm. That's what Telegraph is.
It's become the Italian media of Red Bull, basically.
Every single detail comes out. And first of all, look, the problem was they gave too much power to Max. And once Max had too much power, that power went to Jos. And what Jos did was yap around, leaked everything, told everything out. Whatever, look, he's getting some money out of it as well, for sure. That's how these things work. If that is happening, you've broken the fabric of what made Red Bull successful. And I'd done this video just at the start of 2024, January 2024, which was why Red Bull is currently, why basically Drinks Company beat every top team in Formula 1. And the reason was stability, lack of politics, keeping, always having an elite talent in the team, and most importantly, no leaks.
Yeah.
The reason why I used the no leaks thing was because that's the nonsense that happens with Ferrari.
But Red Bull was also just the absolute perfect makeup of an F1 team, as we discussed earlier, which was Dietrich genuinely loved racing. Like, he was genuinely just a fan of racing. And he essentially put a great team of people together, and he gave them full backing. Even if, there was points where throughout the career,
31-year-old kid was brought on as a team principal.
But there was points throughout that where you could kind of almost see that the team had to kind of convince him of things. And the stories I've always heard from everyone at Red Bull who's talked about things like this, and from Newey to Horner, has always been he was essentially not really sure the idea was a good idea at the start. But no matter, even if he was still not sure of the idea by the end,
it was supposed to be
but even if he wasn't sure of the idea by the end, if it was Horner, Newey, and Helmut saying, "Look, we need to do this," he was okay. I trust you guys. Go for it.
Yeah.
And the Red Bull board, since Dietrich has died, has done the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
And that is why this team is going to fall apart. It's not going to be the Horner being fired now is just, I think, the final nail in that coffin of. There's no going back now, and it's going to be years of just a mess.
The DNA is dead. Tomorrow, if Max goes on and has another moment similar to what he had in Barcelona, would you have Laurent Mekies going out with those screenshots and everything and sitting the media down and explaining why my driver is correct? No, he won't. That's when Max will realize who he lost. And I think it's very, very...
Do you know what's also unfortunately going to happen now for the next 3 to 6 weeks?
What?
Red Bull's going to have some decent performances.
No, they won't.
I'll tell you why.
Suck at Spa.
This is what happens in Formula 1. There'll be 3 to 6 weeks of decent performances where all of these people who've been calling for Horner to go over the last while will seem vindicated. And then all of a sudden it'll be like, why is everything falling apart so quickly? What's happened here? This is just
nothing else.
Every time in Formula 1.
There's a basic reality of Formula 1 which people do not want to understand.
Everything lags.
It's not a 2-minute noodle.
But that's the thing. Everything lags, though.
Takes time.
The results that you're seeing at Spa, for example, are the results of decisions made 6 months ago.
Exactly.
So it's going to be interesting to see, 2026, because that's going to start being the results of Mekies, you know, or Mekies.
Not even that, because the
of the
entire
board.
PU thing is
Decisions
I don't know,
Christian has
I'm-
made and stuff as
if-
well. So
look, if the Verstappen family has gone ahead and said that, okay, look, guys, I want to retire at Red Bull. I'll give you my 3 years. We are going to struggle a bit. We have some issues, whatever, but we'll power through it. If that is the contract, fine. I would be more than happy. Maybe if the lead driver is saying I'll give you my commitment of 3 years, fine. But if that's not the case, if in 2026 at the start of the season Max is looking around for a seat,
but even if Max does that,
I think if that happens, Oliver Minchalaff is the dumbest person in the world, because
sure.
he would have nothing.
But even if Max signs up for 3 years, like Max isn't signing up without clear performance increases. So it's going to be a case of like,
I don't know what he's going to do.
I just don't see any situation where Max signs something where he can't get out of the contract if they completely, like if we get in halfway through 2026, right? And the board goes, right, we've got a new team principal coming in now. You know, like at that point, I don't see why Max
For
doesn't
now,
have a
Mekies
performance
is
clause.
both, right? CEO and team
CEO
principal.
and team principal, yeah. Alan Permane is taking over as team principal
Racing Bulls.
of Racing Bulls, yeah.
And
I guarantee you it'll be. Look, maybe I'll be proven wrong here, and maybe it'll turn out Mekies is absolutely brilliant. I mean, that could happen.
he can
It's
be
just-
brilliant. It's just that we've
It's
not
the
seen
board,
it yet.
but
I'll
also
be honest, we haven't seen it yet.
sure, and he's been around a long time. You know,
He was with Ferrari for a few years.
That's the
He is
question
with
you've got to
Racing
ask
Bulls.
yourself as well. Is like, okay, he was with Toro Rosso, right? He didn't get promoted up from there. He didn't get brought across to the Red Bull team. He went to the FIA. He went to Ferrari. During his time at Ferrari, there was a lot of people called up to team principal. Ferrari never saw him as the guy. When he went back to Red Bull, he wasn't brought into the Red Bull team as a number two, say a Jonathan
He was
Wheatley
below
type.
Peter
anything.
Bear.
Yeah. So if no one has had the fate so far, what's changed?
It's
you know?
a makeshift position. It's not that they see him as someone who.
Sure, but who do they swap that out with then if this goes wrong? Look again. Maybe
it's
we'll
the
be
same
proven
thing,
wrong.
right? It's basically similar to what the Ferrari nonsense is going to be, because
And maybe he'll do a brilliant job. That would be
either
to
way.
me- if he does a brilliant job, that to me would be a gamble that happened to pay off, as opposed to a well thought out strategy.
Yeah.
That would be like hey, we put some fucking putty on the wall and the wall hasn't fallen down yet. You know,
Yeah.
like brilliant. Not we crafted this wall from the start to be perfectly engineered. You know, this like
And tell me something, by the way. What's your just final take on Verstappen's future? What do you think is going to happen?
I think he stays until the end of 2026. I don't know what happens after that because it very much depends on performance. But I think he's signed up to stay for 2026. I would hope he has, because otherwise there's absolutely no logic in this at all. Like the only reason to kick Horner out is to keep Verstappen for a foreseeable future. And that does seem to me like a very bored, thought out decision of, well, Verstappen's the reason for our success at the minute, according to us. So let's keep him and get rid of that guy that Verstappen clearly doesn't want here. I will make one other prediction as well, that I do think this could be, unless he wants to stick around post 2028, this could very well be his last championship then, because I don't think Red Bull's going to do particularly well next year. And the problem that I've said for a while with him kind of sticking and not making it, doing a sabbatical or anything like that, is Formula One's very short-sighted. At the end of the season, you're going to have a new world champion. He's going to be the new thing, especially if it's Piastri and not Lando, who's been around for a while, because Piastri will then become, can this guy go on a run of championships? If McLaren are winning next year, then that door is going to be closed because they're going to be banking on Piastri.
Yeah.
And if Mercedes are the best next year and beat McLaren, and it's likely George then who wins the championship, at which point George is the new hot thing in Formula One, and Toto's going to be like, well, we have a world champion now who's performing.
And
we
Kimi
don't
will be
need
grown
Max.
up by then.
Yeah, and we don't need Max anymore. And anyone who doesn't think that's the case, go back and watch Formula One. That's how it's always gone. Like, you know,
It's
look
not
how
only that.
quickly Verstappen has become the greatest driver in Formula One history by so many people, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's up there. me and you still don't think he's the greatest, you know,
Yeah.
but he's definitely high up on that list.
Yeah.
But look how quickly that happened. And as I just did in a video, how quickly that same thing happened for Vettel and how quickly Vettel went from
By the way,
being
guys, check that one out.
Yeah.
It was a nice one. I
But
saw
yeah,
it.
how quickly it went from Vettel being the next Schumacher to, yeah, but Vettel's not even as good as Hamilton. You know, like those conversations in Formula One happen so fast. So,
You know what? There's a lot of Alonso at Ferrari thing that has happened. That's because if you remember, Alonso was instrumental in getting who fired at Ferrari? Aldo Costa, which was the next team. Aldo Costa went to Mercedes. And what did he do there? He built the 2014 turbo hybrid Mercedes. So be careful what you wish for. And I just hope what Max has not done here is he's not only burned the bridges with a lot of key people. He's made, at least for now, he's made himself radioactive in certain ways. Because it's not that Max alone is coming. He's coming with a lot of baggage. Teams will still be interested. Alonso still has teams that are interested in him.
oh, Max will always be like.
It's
Max is a four-time world champion now, and it's the same as Vettel, Alonso, Button. Like as soon as you get your first world championship, Well, look at Raikkonen. Like as soon as you get your first world championship, even if Max does, in the likely situation that Max's kind of sheen wears off, you know, he stops winning championships. Red Bull do really shit. He sticks around for a while, doesn't even win any races for a season for whatever reason.
Yeah,
and all of
which
a sudden
is very possible. If 2026 is a season where he doesn't win a single race,
Formula One is 90% about the car, and people just don't want to believe that. So if he does that, that sheen
it is
will wear
90%
off.
car only for drivers that are not their favorite. That's all.
Yeah.
Anyways, enough of Max. Let's talk about Horner, because what do you think happens with him?
Well, look, let's be honest here. It's very unlikely that this is the last we see of Horner in Formula One, because Formula One's been his entire life for the past 20 years, and I can't see him going and being a fucking pundit like Eddie Jordan or
He doesn't need to do that.
No, but I think he goes to another team as team principal and boss.
Yeah, I'll give you the 3 pathways that I think are there. If you think anything else is there, just point it out.
Go for it.
First is he comes back as a co-owner of a team, similar to the arrangement that Toto Wolff currently has. Second, he goes to Ferrari. Third, he either becomes the FIA president or something in the FOM. So these are the 3 options. What do you think if there's anything else?
The other one that has been batted around that we should discuss is Aston Martin, which
that's basically as a co.
Yeah.
I think he. It's just a rumor that I've heard.
Okay, so you're putting that in the co-owner one. Yeah. Okay.
Lawrence is looking to sell his stake to a certain extent. And the Saudi fund is looking to either take over or looking for a person that they can use as someone who's kept it at the front of it.
There's no other... Okay, so... No, in terms of those, that's fine. In terms of likelihood, I think the first one's the most likely. Ferrari would be an interesting one, and it would be kind of cool to have him at Ferrari, because if anyone could turn Ferrari...
No, it's not cool.
I'm just saying, because
I don't hate him.
If anyone could turn Ferrari around, it would be Horner. The problem with that is
they won't let
I
him.
don't think Horner... Like, if Horner's going to go to Ferrari, he's going to demand the exact same things that Newey did that they turned down Newey for. You know, complete overriding authority of his thing, no interruptions from the board. He gets full say and final say. And the board and John Elkann are going to be like, no, you're not getting that. At which point he's going to be like, oh, well, I don't want to go to another fucking Red Bull with less success then. So I'll go somewhere else. So I think, and FIA and FOM, I think down the line, maybe at this point,
he's 50
Horner,
years old,
he's very young still. And like at this point, you got to think of Horner is the type of guy who loves a fucking revenge story. He loves
wants
it.
Revenge.
So he's going to want to come in. He's going to want to get into a team where he has his name not on the car, not worried about that, because horny Alpine Racing doesn't have a, but he's going to want his name on the owners list, and he's going to want to come in and he's going to want to beat Red Bull with that team. That's going to be his next move. The question is where. I don't know. Before we get into where, is that your thinking as well, or?
I think for me, if he wants to come back, which he does, the co-owner thing is fine, but when I sat back and thought about it, I think for me the bigger thing for him is going to be he's not going to join a project just as it is. He wants a project where the resources are there, where money is there. And if I'm not wrong, I don't think he wants to join a customer team. If he joins
Okay,
Alpine,
yeah.
he's a customer of Toto Wolff, and I don't think he wants that in any which way. That's where just makes me think that okay, there might be something that could be going on. I think there has been talks about Hyundai coming. There have been talks about another Chinese automobile joining in, and there have been talks about an American automobile who Otmar Zafnar is bringing with him. So either it's first of all, I think it's going to take some time when Horner comes back, because he's going to come back ready and prepared, but he needs a few things in place. There are a few conditions that have to be there. The first is he's going to be a co-owner. He does not want to experience what he experienced today or day before yesterday, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because he gave everything to that team and he was just thrown out for, honestly, that's not even performance purposes. That's not performance. That was political.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that to happen ever again. And that's why actually I think he's not going to Ferrari, because that would happen to him at Ferrari for sure.
There's no way that's happening at Ferrari.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, that is one thing. Second is resources should be there. And third is it's whichever base or whichever foundation he's going to be a part of. It's not that he wants it to be a 4 to 5 year project. It has to be something that is in the intermittent. So there are talks about Aston Martin that have been there. There are talks about Alpine to a certain extent. So I don't know where he goes, but I'm pretty sure he'll be back. It might take some time, but wherever it is, keep an eye on it.
It's probably going to be 12 months anyway. We'll probably hear before then, but it's going to be 12 months of gardening leave, I think, regardless.
I actually thought there could be a possibility he goes to Audi. If they are, because look, they'll throw out Binotto in a second. I don't even doubt that. When
the question there becomes
if someone like Horner is available, they're going to throw him out. And look, Jonathan Wheatley would be fine with it either, because there wasn't any friction between the two when he left. It was Horner who said that.
Especially if you had if you had literally CEO Christian Horner and team principal Wheatley.
Yeah.
You know, Wheatley gets to be kind of the more face of it, like he was.
Yeah.
What
and he'll
he
be
wanted.
fine with it. Yeah.
I still think, though, for me, Alpine just makes the most sense. And the other thing is, remember, like what we're hearing now is that it's going to be V8s for 29 or 30.
No, they are not going to be there. MBS is basically saying
MBS has become my favorite person now.
Yeah,
right? Okay?
because MBS is
because
basically...
he gave me the penalty menu and V8, and I will... That's it. All is
MBS
forgiven.
is basically Donald Trump before elections, where he's going to say everything to make you happy, and then...
Yeah, and then he's going to let me down.
In 2019, he's going to make Formula 1 full electric. That's what he's going to do.
Probably. Even though he can't legally do that until 2039. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
I just think Alpine, I'll tell you why, right? The reason is, for me, it's got to be a British team. Right. And the reason I think that is because I think he's going to want to stick the knife in Red Bull as much as possible now. But it's just who Horner is. And by having a British team that's very close to the Milton Keynes, or close enough to Milton Keynes as basically all the other British teams are.
With Verstappen family now.
No, but I think he's going to want to do it to just Red Bull in general and then Verstappen. I'm sure it's one then the other, right?
Yeah.
If he goes to another British team that's in that area, which most of them are within an hour's drive of Milton Keynes in reality, Britain's quite small.
Everything is very close.
You know, yeah. So that means Enstone or Silverstone, realistically. Okay. Williams is off the table. James Vowles is there. You know, that's that, right? So Enstone and Silverstone, because the reason I'm thinking that is, one, it's close to where he is. He doesn't have to uproot things, all of those. More importantly, it means that all the staff of Red Bull don't need to uproot. So he can start fucking slashing people out of Milton Keynes as quick as possible, which he's going to want to do. He's going to want to just start calling up people, hey, I'm going to X team next year. Don't sign any new contracts. I'll make sure you're paid right. Come with me, right? As for the money thing... he's 100% going to want to do that, and that's a much harder sell.
Graham Loudon is team principal or CEO?
team at Cadillac CEO, I think. Yeah.
Are you sure?
I think so. I think he's both, but it could be interim.
Okay.
But that could be an option as well, like build something from the ground up, especially because Cadillac could build the engine for 2029.
They have a ton of money.
And the engine they can build for 2029, especially if it does go to V8s or V10s. GM would be quite good at that. That would be a lot easier for GM than a V6, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing for me is I think he's going to want to gut as many Milton Keynes staff as possible and bring them with him.
Yeah.
Which, even if you're forgetting about the revenge attitude, it's also a pragmatic approach. These are people you've worked with. You know who's good, who's bad. You can pull all the best people across. So that's one thing. The ownership thing and the money thing, I don't think that's a huge issue. I think he knows enough money people that he could get the backing for that. And like, think about it. If you're a team that wants to get into Formula One, right? Or if you're a business guy that wants to get into Formula One, or the Saudi group that wants to push more into Formula One, any of those things. If Horner comes knocking, you're going to back him. That's the guy you're going to invest in.
Will that be a works team though? I think he wants a works team.
I think he wants a works team, but I think he also knows that having a works team straight away is going to be an issue, right? I'll say why I don't think Aston Martin in a minute, but just any works team he gets is going to be problematic, right? Alpine makes so much sense because it's close, right? Alpine, as in Renault, clearly aren't that interested.
By the way,
they're clearly trying to back out, of this, which is prime opportunity for Horner to get some backing, come in, buy 50% of the team. He has his main man Flavio there, who in the interim can work with him to say, hey, Flav, look, will you start calling these people, get these people in? I never told you this. And let's be honest, Flavio's not too worried about rules and regulations anyway, so it's not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So you've got that, right? And then, the best thing is he doesn't get a works team straight away, but he gets probably the best engine on the grid, which means that he also has a team there who can build a car. Alpine can build a car, right?
You think fulfill supply?
They've already signed off on it for 3 years. They can't fuck them out under the regulations right now.
You know they can.
Sure.
After a year, right? Because Wolf will not be happy with giving an inch to Horner.
Maybe not straight away, but I mean, it would give him a year or two because they can't just pull the supply straight away. It would be a nightmare. It'll be an anti-competitive nightmare. And you know that, under EU regulations, all of these things, Christian Horner would go fucking crazy about it.
Yeah.
It would just be a bad look from everything, right?
Yeah.
And especially if Toto doesn't get Max, he's also not going to want to help out Red Bull either. So, it's there's a
lot of that. So a lot of things are going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think Alpine's a great fit for that because I just think it's a team he can mold a lot more than I feel like Aston Martin is kind of almost too if he goes to Aston Martin, it's almost like a second Red Bull that's been set up in many ways.
It's basically Toto joining Mercedes.
Yeah, everything's kind of done. And it's going to be a situation where he can't go in and go, I fucking did this. I fucking got it. It's just a situation where he came into a team that was almost ready to fight, got everything in place already. And he's just now there. And it's like, okay, let's do this. And I don't know. It just doesn't feel like the Horner way. The Horner way feels like he wants to come into a team that people are kind of writing off at the moment, turn it around so that when he does dig it in, he can go, oh, well, yeah, Red Bull made the right decision getting rid of me, didn't they? That feels more Horner to me.
Honestly, look, I think it's a great thing that this has happened. In some ways, I think it's a great thing because, look, there's a lot of things to talk about. They're fucked. They're fucked. I've never seen a drive since Kimi fucked up. Lotus completely bankrupted them. I've never seen a driver completely ruin a team. Max has done that to Red Bull now. They are in that position now because there will come a day when
just to be very clear.
Look, you want to give him a benefit of doubt. I can understand. Look, Max is not an asshole. He's never, at least on off track.
From what I've seen, I think he's just put full confidence in his team.
Yeah, but then
I think he'll regret that decision, agency, right? Yeah. I think he'll regret that decision. Yeah. But I think it is a case of you put full faith in your team. That team has done you really well over the years. Yeah. So then they come to you with this crazy idea, and you go, "Well, you haven't steered me wrong yet. So let's see what happens." Yeah. And then you're Daniel Ricciardo in 5 years. These things happen. So let's see.
Boy, has he screwed himself. I don't know. Look,
Let's see.
if after all of this he ends up at Mercedes, great, he's done. And then there won't be any
So
concern.
you think Horner goes to Aston though to top that off? That's your thinking.
No. There have been rumors that he would, but I think
I
think
would
he's
Newey
not
stay.
going to. I think he's going to take some time. I think
Do you think
either
Newey
ways
would
he's-
stay at Aston if Horner goes?
Newey and Horner are family friends.
No, I know. It seems like an old Red Bull reunion. I'm just not sure. Is that what Newey was looking for? To kind of be back in the same thing.
Yeah.
Not over hatred or anything. I just don't know
But
if
again,
that's
it's yeah.
Newey
the-
wanted
the
a fresh,
problem
clean
is-
slate.
Exactly, but also the problem here is that I don't think when you have someone like Andy Cowell in place, you want to replace him. Because
That's the other issue, isn't it?
There are
Yeah.
good people in place at Aston Martin. It's not that you just Horner is there, so we have to get him on board. That's not really how they would be looking at it.
Yeah.
So it depends. It depends entirely on. It depends on
Alpine.
two things.
It's
First
Alpine.
is which team is hungry enough to approach him, because look, he'll have offers. He'll already have offers.
What if Max goes to Mercedes and Mercedes fire Toto somehow and bring Horner? That would be the funniest outcome.
Oh God!
Obviously unfeasible. Like Toto's a part owner, but it would be
Yeah,
the
he can.
funniest.
He
It would be
can
the
be told
funniest
to sell his
option.
share and fuck off. That's
But
what
it would be absolutely the most hilarious option,
Yeah.
But not gonna happen.
I mean, should have stuck with Kimi. And I think, by the way, this is precisely why Lewis did a brilliant thing when in 2010 or 11 he just said to his father, okay, family, personal and professional both are different.
Yeah.
Look where they are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, enough talk about the whole saga. Let's see where it goes, because now Red Bull the DNA is gone, isn't it? It was a
Yeah,
competitive team
it's-
where they fought for every inch. That's what Christian Horner was.
Yeah.
I don't think Laurent Mekies is the same guy. So yeah, let's see what they do.
Yeah.
Cool. Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah. I think
How much time do we have?
I think I can push another 20 minutes and we can do it. Let's just check.
Good.
Yeah.
Take
Fuck
it.
it. Let's just go for a little bit. Cool.
Okay, so after some shitty news, let's pivot to a more
Exciting
good
topic.
news. Yeah, more exciting
Oscar's
topic.
penalty. No.
By the way, okay, just to touch on it, he was not robbed. There are rules and regulations written. Read the FIA document, and if you do not read the FIA document, you try to use your common sense. Good, use it. But the FIA documents don't use common sense more often than not. So here's the thing. Read the FIA document. If you do not agree with it, drop your whatever views you have in the comment section. We'll take a look at it and I'll probably answer. Now let's talk about the more...
Well, one last thing, because we'll probably do Hulkenberg and then jump into some questions real quick to finish off. But the last thing I'll say on the Oscar thing is I'm not even that aggrieved that he got the penalty for there was a penalty for that, because I understand why they have to be careful with this. There was Mugello 2020, those Constantine FX. I get it, right?
Yeah.
I get it's a safety thing and I get the penalty. My only grievance with that penalty, and the reason I think he shouldn't have gotten it, is he did the exact same thing on lap 17, right? And they didn't apply the penalty then. And the reasoning was basically something along the lines of, it was kind of on the limit, but it was basically the exact same thing. Exact same thing.
They talked about it. I'm not sure they talked about it in that, or John Noble did an article on it where he explained it. So what happened here was he could have gotten a penalty for the first one as well. They just let it go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what you can't do that though. Right?
Ideally, yes, you can't.
But at the
if
very
someone
least,
had complained,
but at the very least, if you're going to say we're like this is worth a penalty, but we're going to let it go, you absolutely in that case should have to. There should be some sort of regulation to say if it went to the stewards and or like the race directors thought about it that way, they should at least have to call up the team and say, hey, just letting you know that was right on the limit, and if that happens again, it will be a penalty.
No, I don't agree with it. The reason is,
but he did the exact same thing twice.
Yeah, I know.
So why you have to get? That's not consistent.
The reason why that happened is the first one they thought, okay, fine, just let it go. In terms of happens. Sometimes there's this thing with the track violations as well, right? Sometimes they just let it be. Okay, fine, it happened. But the thing is, when it happened again, so then it became problematic for them.
But you send a
They
warning.
could have. If you send a warning, you can't let ultimately leave it at that, because any team can have a look at those logs and say that according to the regulations, here's the penalty. Give him a penalty.
Sure,
Give
but
him
if
a
you
20-second
penalise
penalty
it
in
the
that
second
case.
time, then it was
Then
essentially the exact same situation. So
Yeah.
other teams can then go, why wasn't he given a penalty for the first one?
Yeah, precisely.
So it's the
why
same
it was-
thing as just giving a warning. My point is,
But
if
you can't
you,
give a warning, right? Because there are no mitigating factors.
you can send it to stewards, so it's investigated, right?
Yeah, if
And
it is
then the
investigated,
stewards-
he's given a penalty. Because going
but
from 220
you
till
can't-
50
but
is
that's
a
my whole
penalty.
point. It's inconsistent, because what happens then is drivers go, well, I did it like 10 laps before and it was fine. So now
Yeah.
you can't justify the exact same thing and giving a penalty.
Why it is
The whole
justified
point
is
of these
because it's
penalty
in the
menu
rules.
is sure,
Why
yeah,
it is-
sure,
yeah.
but then you have to penalize it both times. This is why people
Yeah,
get
I'll
annoyed
be
about
fine with it.
But this is why people get annoyed about bias and so on. Like, you can't just let it go once and then the exact same thing happens again. Unless, like, the only way you should be able to do that is if they put something in the regulations to go, okay, if stewards think something was on the limit or if there was mitigating circumstances, they can give warnings. And basically, like that, they have to
You
do that.
can't,
Otherwise,
right?
you have to.
Because then you have
yeah,
to-
but either
Yeah.
that or you have to penalize it both times. You can't
problem
have this
is-
in between of going,
Yeah, 'cause
well, we're not going to
they've-
warn him, but we're going to give him a penalty because he did it twice. But in the regulations, it doesn't say if he does it again. It doesn't say that in the regulations.
The regulation is whenever you do it, you are going to get a penalty. But
Yeah, yeah.
whether it is supposed to be a penalty or not is something that is left to the judgment of the stewards.
Yeah, yeah.
So they looked at it on the first.
but if
one,
the
okay,
stewards
fine,
looked at it,
happens.
it wasn't even investigated. It wasn't sent
Yeah,
to the
if it
stewards
was
for
investigated,
investigation.
it would have been a penalty.
Yeah, yeah. So this is my point. So
Yeah.
you can't have the same situation twice.
Yeah,
In the exact
'cause
same race.
it's- No, because giving a penalty and whatever penalty points or whatever the penalty is, it comes down to the stewards. That kind of discretion is left to them.
Mm-hmm.
So as you've seen, right, the Lando penalty, which was, what was it? The crash with Oscar. He was given a
Yeah,
5-second penalty, but usually
For
causing
mid-
a collision is 10-second
10
penalty.
seconds. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that is something that is down to the steward's discretion. So that's
Yeah.
why they didn't give a penalty on the first one. That level of flexibility is given to them.
Sure,
And
yeah,
look,
yeah.
people can talk about bias here. I can understand that. But every time your favorite driver does not or gets a penalty or does not get a penalty,
I don't think
not
it's bias. My problem
Yeah.
is I think that it causes, like, doing it in the way they did it, where you kind of go, oh, yeah, we probably would penalize that, but we'll let
Yeah.
it go, right?
It's the
that's
same as
thinking-
that, right?
but
Why
that's
did
the
Lando get
problem
only a
with the-
5-second penalty?
Sure, yeah, but the
Right.
problem with that is, like, I don't really care who gets a penalty or when, but
Yeah.
it should be consistent. Like, it should, you
Yeah.
can't just go like, oh, well, because then what happens is, right, he didn't get a penalty the first time. He does the exact same thing the second time. My thinking on that is, well, hold on. Like, obviously, if I'm the driver and I just did it and I got away with it, then you've told me, like, without telling me, okay, so that is allowed then. I'm allowed to do that. So
Yeah,
obviously,
but
I'm
that
going to do
also
it
comes
again.
down to, again, on this very same thing.
See, yeah, I know what you're
Two
saying, the
incidents-
rules or whatever. Yeah,
That's the thing. The
But the
discretion
point
of
is-
a penalty, it comes down to the stewards.
Sure,
That
but-
level of freedom they are given.
But why did they let it go the first time?
That's what they thought. They said, okay, fine, let it be. Why? Because first
but
of all, it was
It
wet.
can't just be like,
Second-
we don't really feel like penalizing him this time.
It's not that. Yeah, I understand what you mean.
That's what it looks like. You know what I mean? That's what it comes across. Because if you said, right,
in the
that
same
was on
way, in the same way, the Lando 5-second and a normal 10-second penalty
yeah, but you
would
can
also
argue
be interpreted
mitigating
that way, right?
circumstances there. And
There aren't circumstances. What
the
mitigating
mitigating
circumstances?
circumstances is it's the same team and they don't want to bash each other over it.
Yeah, that's not a mitigating
No,
circumstance.
I know it's not, but at least you
Then-
could argue that if you wanted to. My
Yeah,
point
you can
is,
argue it,
but they will have argued. I'm sure if we look at the document, there is a mitigating circumstance in there. They would have to have given one to give the 5-second penalty.
they didn't write mitigating circumstances as such. I don't think the first incident was even mentioned in the doc. It was mentioned in John Noble's explanation where he actually revealed that Oscar had done it twice. They
No,
saw
I mean
it
for the
first
Lando
time.
thing. I'm sure there was
Okay,
a
okay,
mitigating circumstance in the document, because to
don't
give a
remember,
5-second penalty, they would have to have put a mitigating circumstance in there.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember. Yeah.
But this is just my problem with it. It's just like it
Yeah.
can't just be.
I'm not a huge fan of.
Especially when it was the same. It was the same brake, right? It was the same. It actually braked. He actually braked less aggressively on the second time than he did on the first one.
Yeah, the pace differential was lesser in the second one.
But the way he braked as well was a lot. It was the same amount of pressure almost, but it was like he let off a lot quicker and stuff, whatever it was. Yeah. But yeah, like my whole point is just like, if you're going to penalize the exact same thing, it should either be a situation of, okay, look, we'll do something where we think something's on the limit and we can warn the team, right? I think that's only fair. Because otherwise you get into a situation of the race director and stewards are basically going, well, we didn't really think that one was over. But it's like, what do you mean? Like, the rules were either broken or they weren't. It's not like, oh, we didn't really think so. There should be like some sort of reasoning behind it. Not, we kind of just let the first one go. It's like, so hold on. So now we get in, because that becomes very problematic if that was Lando Norris that got penalized, and you're like, oh well, or like if it's imagine if that was Max who got penalized, why didn't you penalize him the first time? Like you just, it's just, I don't know, it has a bad look, But anyway, Nico Hulkenberg.
Oh yeah, Nico Hulkenberg. Yeah, I mean, screw Oscar. Oh, by the way, one thing a lot of people didn't touch on. My view, I think Lando would have still won the race if not for the penalty.
That depends, honestly, on. Yeah, I guess it depends on how McLaren. He was
5 seconds, 5 or 6 seconds behind, or I don't know, 7 seconds behind something. He brought it down to a second, and he just coasted from that point onwards. He could have. Yeah. He was told that Oscar has a penalty. You don't need to do anything untoward, and he coasted, and he had enough pace to. Easily get a job done.
The question is whether he runs into the back of Oscar or not trying to overtake, I guess. So.
I mean, Silverstone is wide enough, but you never underestimate Lando's brilliance when it comes to
Lando's ability to throw away a done deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Now the more important thing. Nico Hulkenberg, first podium.
Just goes to show what a team principal can do, doesn't it?
Yeah. That was all him.
No, Nico Hulkenberg's podium, absolute brilliance. Especially if you go and listen to the radios of him making calls, that just makes it even more, because he overrode the team like 3 times on pit strategy.
First one was when the first lap, then there was the second one when it came to pitting in the rain, and then the final one was when everyone pitted from intermediates to slick. He said, let's stay out for one more lap.
Yeah.
And that made the difference. I'll tell you, that made the difference.
He just made all the right calls. So you got to give, not only did he keep it on track, he kept pace with Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari near the end as well.
Which was, by the way, the 17th fastest car in the grid, apparently.
Yeah. I'm surprised, to be honest, Max even finished 5th in the 11th fastest car of that race. But anyway, I just thought it was an amazing win, because it was like, it wasn't even like a simple win where he was 4th and 3 people crashed in front of him. Like, Oscar's penalty made no real difference to it. There was safety cars. There was, like, if he hadn't have made all those calls on the radio for the strategy, he wasn't finishing 3rd.
Even,
and then he,
I think what a lot of people are missing, it's the speed that he had. He was, I think, was the third or fourth fastest car on the intermediates by the time they were just very close to the end. Lewis tried to overtake him for a few laps. He kept his composure, and then Lewis started falling back. The gap was around 3 seconds by the time Lewis jumped into the pits. He was doing it in a Saber. And I think that's the whole thing. He did that in a Saber while Lewis was in a Ferrari. And people do not...
Ferrari signed the wrong driver,
I mean, I won't shit on Lewis, at least for now.
Fine.
Yeah.
Red Bull signed the wrong driver.
Yeah, sure.
They should have signed Hulkenberg in 2016,
Oh God, yeah.
They would have won the 2017-2018 championship, I reckon, in the Red Bull with Hulkenberg. I think that's just a fact.
He even in 2020 they should have signed him. And you know, I mean, for almost everyone, look, he's 37 years of age, and people do not remember in karting, Hulkenberg was the most impressive German prodigy. He beat Sebastian Vettel every time. By the time they made it to by the time they made it to car racing, then Vettel was associated with BMW, and then he was picked up by Red Bull.
Yeah.
The problem with Hulkenberg's career, it had to do with his management. He was linked with Michael Schumacher's former manager, Willy Weber.
Yeah.
By the time he entered Formula One in 2010, it was an entirely new generation where you had teams that already had their young drivers that are making their way through the ranks. So Red Bull had their driver academy. There was Mercedes who had, I'm forgetting his name. And remember, McLaren had Stoffel Vandoorne, Kevin Magnussen, and Ferrari had Jules Bianchi and Sergio Perez. These were their academy drivers. Hulkenberg had been approached by all these teams during his junior career, and he had declined because at the time in 2006-2007, the academy culture was not really there.
Yeah.
But by the time he entered, the teams had basically invested so much time and so much resources in their academy drivers. Those drivers started getting priority. That's why he started getting overlooked by Red Bull, even though he was approached quite a few times. Mercedes, let's be honest, Valtteri Bottas, managed by Toto Wolff, ending up at Mercedes is not a surprise. Not a surprise to anyone who is willing to join the dots. And that's what hurt his career at the time. And he was done. Formula One, in 2019, when he was done with Formula One, I thought we were done with whatever concept of Nico Hulkenberg was there, and he would not even have a podium. Coming back 2023, beating Magnussen, establishing himself again, and now getting a podium. That's ideally, in my view, he deserved, with his talent and his performance, he deserved at least a run at a title at least once. At least one front-running car.
Maybe he'll get it right next year.
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Audi could have the second best engine. And we know that Mattia Binotto, when he has the best engine and the best car, he always wins.
Well, the car would not be in red, so maybe that's a good thing.
And Jonathan Wheatley will be in the middle of it, so it might actually work out. Yeah.
I mean, I guess all Hulk needed was a bit of green on his livery to ultimately get a podium. Yeah.
The most important question can I ask, that while you were celebrating this beautiful moment of Nico Hulkenberg being on the podium, did you take a minute to get really, really annoyed at the fact that the McLaren guys hadn't sprayed him with champagne? Did that ruin the whole day for you?
Yeah, he wasn't.
Yeah. Because I
sticky
find when
enough,
things are going well for me, I just like to go, I seem to be happy. I better try and figure out a way to ruin this fucking moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The number of people that are actually pissed off about this is hilarious.
Relax.
I mean, the literal dumb weirdos on all. I only thought that X was like that. Instagram is similar.
Yeah.
Same dumb idiots.
YouTube was the same. Just everywhere.
Everywhere you have the same nonsense.
The funniest thing was I heard podcasts being like, it was unfair of like Oscar to be pissed off at that point. And I'm like, do you really think Hulkenberg was on that podium going, I wish Oscar was nicer today? Like, he didn't give a shit. Like, it took him 15 years to get on the podium. Do you think he was sitting there going, well, I'm annoyed about this. You know, these guys didn't spray me with champagne.
The best part was he went into the cool down room. Yeah, he did. And the best part was when Hulkenberg went into the cool down room and he was sitting and talking to Oscar. And Lando comes in carrying his helmet. Yeah. What's this for?
Yeah. Or my favorite was Oscar said like about the penalty or whatever. And Nico went, yeah, they do penalise that because it causes problems further back.
Yeah.
Nico, just the old head, basically went, you deserve that penalty. Yeah.
It was as matter of fact as it could be.
Yeah. I'm so happy that Hulkenberg so deserved this. I just found it funny that it was just like typical F1. That it was like, oh, this is an amazing moment. And people are like, where will I find the problem in this? Yeah.
And there was also the other dumb bunch, isn't it? By the way, Team Ellis, you have some very, very rotten eggs. Try to get rid of them. Honestly, the dumb idiots who are like, he is sexist apparently, or I don't know, whatever particular word.
I saw that. Yeah, I responded to that with, sure, look, I mean, if we're going to judge everyone for what they're doing, then we probably shouldn't support Hamilton given he was at some Diddy parties. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, you know, or said that,
one of them
said that boys shouldn't be wearing dresses at one point. So I'm guessing he's a transphobe. He was at Diddy parties, so we can't support him. Vettel and Hulkenberg both said, where are the grid girls going? So, you know, they're both horrible scumbags. Like, I'm sorry, but these are at the time of all that, these are 20-something-year-old racing drivers who have grown up in a culture of sports. Like, do you really think that these people don't say crazy stuff like that all the time? Like, and also, who cares? Like, it's just such genuinely.
I mean, you're going to start and do all this character assassination of everyone. You have zero idea the kind of political beliefs these drivers have.
I would just say, if you start judging people, for stuff like that, really make sure that you have never said anything that not only could be taken bad now, but that won't be taken bad in 12 or 15 years' time. So that basically means never have any opinion ever, because ultimately in 20 years' time, something that you think is perfectly reasonable now will be seen as horribly bigoted in 20 years' time. And this podcast is going to basically... if I ever get rich and famous, we're screwed. No, because I'm just going to take the Clarkson method. I've realized that if you just don't give a shit what people say, nothing happens. You know, like you can say horrible things.
Yeah, you have to be rich enough for that. Because that's
also, that
helps, you know.
But if you're rich and famous, you shouldn't give a shit about anything anyway. You know, like who cares? Because you can apologize for it and people can just go, like basically what you do is if you feel like you've done something wrong, you come out, you say, look, I'm really sorry about that. And people go, well, that's not good enough. And you go, well, I don't care. I said I'm sorry. I mean it. It's up to you. Like, you know. Let's do 5 or 6 minutes of questions, and then I do have to go.
Let's go for questions. You take a look at X. I'll pick it up from you.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I got a load of notifications, by the way, when I woke up this morning. Not from because people I don't follow. I don't get notifications from. I started getting notifications from people who sending me. That apparently a Noel Knows Wheel guy had.
Oh Jesus! Yeah.
Apparently, I had really upset him. You know, I don't know how, but apparently, I had really upset this guy.
I'll tell you how. So you said that Red Bull should keep Christian Horner. That was your statement, and he, in his dumb head. I mean, he's a Trump supporter, so it comes with.
Isn't this the guy who basically? But isn't that the guy who kept saying, I'm not successful or something?
Yeah.
So this guy has said, I'm not successful. And then 3 weeks later has thought something went wrong in F1 and now is my chance to get on this guy.
Yeah.
Jeez, he must be crazy busy if it's stuck on his mind for that long. Like, Jesus. But, that is crazy.
Oh, God.
Also, I'm just reading it now because I didn't actually really read it earlier. I just said, because he basically said that, what was it? He's been arguing with me for years, which I haven't, by the way, and is always wrong. Fair enough. But yeah. I said that Horner should stick around. And he's like, you got that wrong. And I'm like, no, I said Horner should stick around. I didn't say Horner will stick around. And my response
I wrote the same thing. And he said, keep taking L's. You cannot go into semantics like this. And I said, okay, it clearly seems English is not your first language. We can interact in another one if you want.
Yeah, I just woke up anyway to a few people sending me that, just being like, this guy really is annoyed with you. And I was like, I think I responded to someone with, Jesus, I'm surprised with all of that guy's success. He has so much time to come back. But yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Okay.
Let's go. I just noticed that as soon as I opened X, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this was a funny point this morning." Let me see. Where is the questions? You go first if you want with the first one.
Okay. So first one is Ahmed Fabli. Where did Saber pace come from lately? Did Binotto put 2019 Ferrari engine into it? So no, not the Ferrari engine, but they've had upgrades, and it seems that they work. So he's currently I think Saber is now 6th in the championship.
Mm-hmm.
The way they're going to be, they're going to beat Williams and will be 5th in the championship. But yeah, the pace has improved significantly. So yeah, that's a good thing.
I think the key here was they, like Aston Martin as well, have been very focused on ensuring that the correlation between their development tools and everything actually pans out on track, which is why they've bothered to bring big upgrades this year.
Yeah.
And mainly what they've done now is, even if they don't go any faster throughout the year, they've designed some upgrades. The upgrades have worked on track as expected in the wind tunnel, which means they can now go ahead and develop for 2026 with confidence.
Yeah.
Same as Aston Martin. Essentially, Aston Martin have now brought stuff that actually works. So you'll
for a
probably
change.
actually see them. I don't think it'll get much higher than this. I imagine those teams now will go, okay, look, we've done what we needed to do. Now let's focus on
confirmation is there. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all they needed, right? Next up, which track do you guys think deliver more banger races, Silverstone or Interlagos? Wow.
Interlagos, I would still say, but Silverstone is up there. Like, Silverstone is brilliant. But Interlagos, maybe it's biased because Interlagos used to be the final race of the season, and we got many a brilliant championship ending there.
7,
especially as
8.
Vettel fans, you know, 2012, for example.
12.
Yeah, so like, yeah, probably Interlagos because of that. But they are both brilliant tracks.
Yeah.
Like, they never really I'm trying to think of a bad Brazil and a bad Silverstone race, and I think it would be easier to pick bad ones than it would to pick good ones, because
Yeah, we've had good ones almost every time, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
They're
there's
just
always
built
something
for racing.
happening. Yeah.
you know,
Great. Yeah.
and you get the weather as well. They almost
That's the
always
big
have
thing,
some
isn't
sort
it?
of weather. Yeah, so
Yeah.
cool. Coffeehead, by the way, has one here that
Go for it.
this one we've already answered, but I'm just going to read it out anyway. He's got 2 of them, so I'll read the first one. That holiday was worth it, he says, first of all, because we were late delivering this. He said, does the sacking of Christian Horner confirm Max is leaving? I believe I've already said no. I think he's staying because of it. You think he's staying as well? Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's the only... If Max leaves, like after this,
Fire everyone.
just shut the fucking team down.
Seriously.
You know, clearly
You're
clearly
not
no one is
worthy enough to actually handle such a thing.
Yeah, just sell the team to fucking Andretti or something. Also, what are the chances of Horner going to Audi or Aston Martin next year? We both talked about that.
Oh,
Audi
okay.
would be amazing.
Yeah. I'd love to
I
see
think
that.
Alpine. You think?
I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him at Audi. I don't think it happens. I'd love to see him at Aston Martin. I don't think it happens. I think Alpine is going to take a lot of work. I don't think by next season. I won't be surprised if he's not back until 2027 either.
Maybe, yeah, maybe so.
Because he, it's not only him being back. He wants to be back with proper ammunition to actually, give it back.
Yeah.
He'll play the long game, and he's
just going to want to beat Red Bull, whatever happens. That's going to be his goal, basically.
And that's not going.
Which might not be
next
hard.
season.
Yeah. Because apparently as well, they've got the 7th fastest car at
15th fastest. Yeah. You go first.
Yeah, sorry, there's another one from Coffeehead here. It says, is Hulk officially better than Perez now? This was the first part. I was just going to say, as a Perez fan, I will just admit it. Hulk was always better. So I guess we've answered that. Max to Merck, good move or bad move? It would be a great move for Max now, because Red Bull is definitely falling apart now, regardless. But I don't think he's going to do it now.
Wait, one thing. Good move?
Yeah. Like, he should move away from Red Bull.
I'm not sure if it would be a good move either way, because I don't know. Max has literally made a mockery of where he is right now. Honestly, he's handled it poorly. That's as simple as that. It should have been, he should have basically laid low, see the season out, get into 2026, and at that time have a clear idea of what the pecking order is, and then make the call. He's been very symbolic in the way he's gone about it. He's basically gambling in every direction. Imagine next season somehow he's committed to a long-term contract with either Red Bull or Mercedes, and Aston Martin comes with the best car.
Yeah.
Then what the fuck is he going to do?
Like, genuinely, this goes back to what I said last year, that Jos and Max and everyone should have done. There's clearly some political shit going on with Red Bull. They should just keep their mouths shut, stay out of it.
Yeah.
Put things on the team to say, look, if you don't perform, we're going to leave. That's fine. but not put any pressure on movement. Sit there, wait until 2026, and then make your moves. And I don't know. I think it would be a good move because I think that, honestly, Red Bull is going to go into the toilet now. But let's see. And also, wouldn't it be better for Red Bull to steal Williams' driver lineup if Max leaves rather than go for some rookies? I just have a feeling that
in the right
they're
minds,
not going.
no one is going to Red
No,
Bull anymore.
I think they would have last year. I think they'll look at it now and go, not a fucking hope in hell we were going near Red Bull.
If there's not, if Horner is not there, Laurent Mekies has zero pull.
Yeah.
And everyone despises Helmut Marko. Yeah. Now, Dane Lua, question. Do you think Hamilton still has a chance to get at least one podium for the remainder of the season? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
might even get a
Ferrari
win. Because the car is much better now. It was quite
and
impressive.
they're bringing suspension in Spa, right? Like the new suspension.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Ferrari upgrades always work, so that should be good.
I mean, look, the car is getting better. Too late, but it is getting better. Too late is also very typical of Ferrari.
Or too early and then ruined later on. It's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That happened last season, by the way, not too long ago.
Toro de Corsa. Oh, sorry. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, let me just go through. He has quite a few.
Oh, okay.
Okay. With Christian Horner confirmed being sacked, do you think Max quits mid-season? We've talked about it.
Yeah, I don't think so. No, there's no way. To be honest, the only way he does that is to go to to be honest, there's no point him doing that because any team he goes to other than McLaren, he's not winning a title with, and McLaren's not replacing their drivers. So
not anymore.
No, because Zach's going to see it now as basically like Max essentially isn't really a threat until next year anyway.
Yeah, precisely.
So there's no.
Next up, this is for Jason. Who wins in equal machinery in a 2023 Red Bull? Hulkenberg or Sainz?
Hulkenberg.
Good job. That's the answer.
I think Hulkenberg has better pace, and he's just unfortunately been. Yeah, he's just unfortunate that his career, because Hulkenberg, and that's not to knock Sainz. Sainz is a brilliant driver. I just think we've always said Hulkenberg was one of those should have been a Leclerc, a Russell, a Hamilton,
exactly.
He should have been one of those drivers, and his career just went to shit. He's like Alonso, but Alonso at least got a couple of titles in first.
He's basically Alonso after 2007. After 2008.
Yeah.
By the way, Hulkenberg and Sainz were teammates 2018.
Yep, and Hulkenberg beat him, right?
Yeah.
Quite
when
easily,
are you going to do your first ever live stream in this channel? After 500 subs.
Yeah. When Max leaves Red Bull.
That'll be long. Go for it.
Yeah. Toro de Corsa says, well, they did it. Now the board and an empty suit in Laurent Mekies is running the team.
Okay.
Along with Marco and Jos. From Jaguar it came and back to Jaguar it goes. That's not actually a question, but a great way to sum it up.
Brilliant. Yeah, I read it. It was brilliant.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Okay. Do you guys still think Yuki will beat Lance points this year? Lance scored points, right? Even I don't think so.
No,
he's at 20 points now. Yuki is still at 10, 11, 12.
I mean, Jos is in charge of engineering at Red Bull, so he might turn it around.
Yeah, of course.
So.
And a more serious question. What if Nico Hulkenberg would have signed with Mercedes instead of Lewis? How do you think the 8 years of Mercedes domination would have played
Hulkenberg
out?
Doesn't lose to Rosberg.
Exactly. By the way, this is a serious answer. I'm not kidding. This is a serious answer.
Yeah.
The reason is he's much better in the wet and just a better driver.
I love how we've basically just said, by the way, the guy who just got his first podium after 15 years is better than Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure that won't wind anyone up. And they're going to be, and also the racism remarks are going to come in because we've just picked a blonde-haired, blue-eyed German guy.
But we picked him over a blonde-haired, blue-eyed German guy, isn't it?
That's true,
Nico.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
which technically is fine. So he says, after Dietrich's death, the Austrian side has really not shown much interest in spending so much on F1. You think they'll slowly cut funding and get out of F1? No, I think they'll realize soon how much they're going to have to fucking put into it to turn this around.
So what happened? Actually, just a little bit on this one. Red Bull is, even my initial impression was that since Dietrich is gone, Red Bull is going to pull back from the motorsport and adventure activities. they've actually started pushing even more. They were almost on the verge of buying the KTM MotoGP team. They didn't because Bajaj, the Indian brand, it actually came and took over. Now KTM is actually taken over by Bajaj.
Okay.
So, my former employer. And the money is not a problem anymore in F1, right? Because
the cost cap is just
cost cap 150 million,
135, right?
135. So it is 135 million.
It might be 150 now actually, because they did adjust it for inflation, so it might be.
Yeah. Next season it will be around 180. So when it is just this much, the sponsorship alone kind of takes care of it.
Yeah.
So you have that kind of money, and also
then you have your cheating fund on the side. Obviously, all the teams have those.
So it's not really much of a concern in any which way.
Like Red
money
Bull
is
used
not
to
a
spend
concern in
400
running a
million on
Formula
it,
One team
and-
anymore.
Yeah, as long as they're winning, they'll fine.
Yeah, which they won't be. But yeah, let's see what happens.
Sai
with them.
also has another one on here, which we've kind of already answered, but I'll just read it out. What's next for Horner? Is it Horner's horniness that caused all this? Marshall, Newey, Wheatley leaving? We've already answered this, I guess.
It's actually a finger, but I'd say it's Joss's finger that has led to all of it.
One of the other questions was, how much do you think Joss has a hand? I'm guessing he means masturbation-wise. And was it his beef with the board, the teaming up with the Thai side to take over, that caused this? Honestly, it was just, if we want to really go back to it, it was just at the end of 2022, the board essentially decided they wanted to have more control. Horner didn't. Helmut sided with the board.
Blake
Joss
also
sided
wrote
with the
the
board.
same thing, right? He just came on Twitter after the whole thing happened and said that the board wants someone who's pliable, under the thumb, and will do what they say.
Yep.
And that's not what Christian Horner is. So
which we've been saying for months now, right?
Yeah. Ahmed Fabli, he says Leclerc really needs to improve his wet weather races. 100% correct.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the call to pit for slicks information his idea instead of Ferrari? Yeah. Drivers make that call more often than not. There can be some consultation, but usually drivers have to make the call.
Hulk made the beautiful call because they went around and it was like, we think it's ready for slicks, we should box. And Hulk literally saw the last few corners and went, no. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, Leclerc I'd say both Leclerc and George got a bit unlucky. They had shitty races for sure. The calls didn't work out.
But safety car screwed them, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both of them were fastest on the track when the safety car came out. And that should tell you everything, because the tires were up to temperature and they would have just easily reached.
They would have been 5 or 6 seconds a lap faster, but then the safety car came out and just ruined all of that. And then it started raining again, and that was that basically. Yeah.
Alexander, filthy casuals, duh. Yeah, thank you.
What?
It's basically for, I actually wrote that. Sorry, we couldn't do it earlier. So probably for that.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah.
Horner's being sacked. Is it over for Red Bull?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The question for me is just like, as I've said throughout the whole thing, it's not an if, it's just a when, because they for all we know, over the last 6 months with everything that went wrong, Horner and Vache have absolutely played a blinder and fixed a load of things, right? So you could easily have a situation where for 3 to 4 months, all of a sudden things look really, really good.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, well, look, Mekies came in and fucking everything's great. And it's like, and then 3 to 4 months after that, why is everything falling apart? And it's like, there's that lag in Formula One, straight away. Which is why when Newey left last year and immediately things were wrong, it was like, okay, something else is going on. This can't just be Newey, because Newey has just left.
Yeah.
So these are still Newey parts that are on it.
People don't understand this thing, right?
This is just McLaren have come up and now put them in a box. It's not Newey left, Red Bull fell apart, and it just doesn't work that quickly, so
people,
no one wants to do that though, because
exactly,
they have to look for a
the
blame.
problem is F1 is a complicated sport with dumb fans. That's the worst possible combination.
I mean, I don't want to say dumb, because some of them are our subscribers, but I just think people just people like narratives that are simple. So they just kind of whichever narrative works gullible best for the story they want to tell.
They're not dumb, they're gullible.
Yeah, and liars and facetious and stupid and they're dumb. Yeah. Subscribe.
Queen's Elizabeth 83. Are Saber getting better, or is pretty much everyone but McLaren getting worse? Okay.
Sauber.
Okay.
The other teams are getting better. Also, can we just point out, like, this again, going back to just McLaren, the thing that, like, everything is so close right now. Like, if it wasn't for Colapinto's crash in Q1, that would have been the closest qualifying session we'd had in the history of this qualifying format. Obviously, that's 2006. Is it when it changed? 7, 6?
6.
I know it was in the 2000s. I just can't remember when.
6.
So
it has had some tweaks, right? Because
Yeah.
earlier we used to have that nonsense of burning fuel and stuff. We don't have that anymore.
So, but yeah, nearly 20 years closest session. So the point is, like, even in this situation, it's not like McLaren have, like, it's not like Red Bull have fallen off a second. This is where it just, to me, it feels like
3 tenths back, and if
it's
it
a
was
crazy
dry race,
overreaction
Max
to
could
Rob
have
Marshall
even won.
building a great car, basically.
Yeah.
All of this is a crazy overreaction to Rob Marshall pulling a blinder. That's
Exactly.
all this is. Like,
They're all just fat phobic, that's all.
it's not like Red Bull got slower in Miami last year. McLaren just got quicker. That's
And,
and
part
then
of the
Red
sport.
Bull,
You have
yeah,
to.
and then Red Bull were like, "Oh, we can't actually make this car faster unless we change things."
Yeah.
But there's only a season left, so what do we do? But yeah, people just that narrative's not exciting enough, so people have to fucking stir it up with a lot of stuff. So, God, it turns out we hate fans. We probably shouldn't be running a podcast.
Yeah. We hate everyone. We are a fan of everyone, apparently. So, Red Robin 1122. Is Oscar still the favorite to win the championship, or are Norris and Oscar quite evenly matched?
Well, we've said this before. Like, they're quite evenly matched in a lot of places. It's just that in terms of just raw pace, Norris is one of the fastest drivers on the grid. Like, if it was just down to absolute raw pace and nothing else, like, Norris would give Verstappen a run for his money. It's just everywhere else where he's shit. So, like, the problem with that is raw pace is still really important in Formula One. So in weekends where Norris can be really quick, that makes it very problematic for Oscar. So yeah, it's balanced. It's just not perfectly balanced in the right way. It's like they both have strengths in different places,
Exactly. So we've
which
had
kind of balance it out.
12 races. There are 5 wins for Oscar, 4 for Lando.
Yeah,
The gap between the two is just 8 points.
8 points now. Yeah.
I think it's going to. I'm just surprised there's
Plus
still
the
zero
FIA is
tension
biased
between the
towards
two.
British people, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's why. Yeah.
I'm still surprised there's zero tension between the two. But I think most of that is because there's always someone else who catches
it's
the
also
attention.
because Oscar doesn't, like, we saw Oscar get the most annoyed we've ever seen him last weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And even that was kind of like, I've seen people literally like get charged 5 cents extra for something and be more annoyed than Oscar was. I've seen people on Twitter get more annoyed at, anything I've said over than Oscar did. And then Lando always blames himself. So I don't think there'll be any tension.
Yeah.
Like, Oscar could literally crash into Lando, and Lando in the interview would be like, "Oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I let Oscar crash into me." So
By the way, Oscar saying that we should switch places. Who the fuck? What the fuck are you doing?
in fairness to Oscar as well, like, I love that afterwards he was just like, "Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I had to ask."
it was worth
that
a try.
kind of, to me as well, was just like, that's a championship mentality of just like, this is never going
Let's
to happen,
see.
but I'm going to fucking ask.
Shoot
because
my
this
shot.
team has been ridiculously stupid in the past. So maybe, maybe they'll be like, "Remember Hungary last year? We're going to pay back Oscar for that now." And Norris is like, "But I let Oscar through at Hungary last year." So
Okay. Oh, wow. So Flaky has a massive question. Why do they always do a safety car when shit gets tricky and interesting? It's also peak monkey FIA to do a safety car instead of a VSC. Once the safety car finishes, all cars are packed together, which means a huge amount of spray, which is also one of their excuses to do the SC in the first place. True. With a VSC, keep it fair, sports-wise. The tire temps don't drop. Oh, okay. In doing so, Andrea overrated Antonelli won't crash once again. He's also had very shit few races, right? I think in the last 5 races he's finished once.
It's got to be very, like, if there is still truth now after this to Max going to Mercedes, it's still got to be very, very difficult for for Toto to convince the board that, "Oh yeah, we're going to replace George though." Like, that's got to still be a tricky conversation, because if you're looking on pure performance, you're like, "Wait, hold on. You're telling us we need to spend 100 million on this like incredible racing driver.
Yeah.
And you're going to swap out the one who's like outscoring him at the minute. Like that doesn't make any sense. To convince a board
It's not
of that,
only outscoring him, he's smashing him now.
he's outperforming him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
By
George
some
is
distance.
I'm sorry, Verstappen fans. George has been a better driver than Verstappen this season.
I don't agree.
Just Max has the second fastest car, and George has a much slower car.
Yeah.
So
Okay, the next part. And
if
also
that annoyed you, subscribe. Sorry.
And also that Piastri penalty is a fucking joke. The amount the amount of mental gymnastics from the usual R-word journalist and publication is disgusting at this point. So I also did.
Bye, everybody. Yeah.
The only one failing to slow down and overtake under SC is Mr. 33, which is Max, which then proceeds to sprint. Yeah, by the way, that was also funny.
Actually,
he's the
if
one
you-
not in control of the car.
Did you look at the Jolyon Palmer analysis where you had the telemetry afterwards?
Why? What
And
happened?
basically it showed that like Max didn't brake anywhere near as hard the second time.
Yeah.
So it does kind of like,
Intentional.
if that was
thing.
any other driver, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, he didn't brake as hard.
Yeah.
When it's Max, you got to be thinking to yourself, after lap 17, he probably thought, if he does that again, I'm going to make this look real bad. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
that would be a Max thing to do.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
And
Max
again,
and
fair game.
George, they think that way. Like, they're very, that's why I want,
All of them, Lewis,
if Max
Alonso,
does
all
leave-
these guys.
if Max does leave, please replace Kimi. It would just be so, I know Kimi's going to be an amazing future driver, but just for short-term entertainment, George v Max at the same team
Okay, here's a scenario.
would be incredible.
Here's a scenario. Max goes to Mercedes, and Kimi, after a year of running and everything, is all grown up. He's reached a point where he can extract whatever there is in the car. And in the first few races, he starts beating Max because Max is still getting used to the team and everything. What happens then?
That
Then
Max
Toto's fired.
literally...
No, then
Yeah,
Toto
yeah,
is
but-
fired. Because
But also, Max starts properly being compared to Vettel.
oh god,
And I will have the most fun time on Twitter ever. So...
I'd
yeah.
love to see Max versus Kimi in the same car, but who knows?
I'm kind of like, it is a bit of a letdown if he doesn't leave, because I was kind of excited to see like what he would do
if
in a
Max
car
is
that's not
leaving
built for him
and
as
going
well.
to Mercedes, I think at that point, I think it's safe to say that Red Bull is gone, done, done's over.
Yeah, finished. Yeah,
Yeah, because that
But
is
it would
a different
be
level of
exciting
stupidity.
to see. I guess, on the plus side, it's going to be exciting either way now, because if Max stays, I'll be proven right that they should have kept Horner.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain of it.
Yeah, I'm 100%.
And if Max leaves for Mercedes, I just hope they put him alongside George so I can be proven right that George is a better driver than Verstappen. I'm not actually saying that on the record. Max is definitely better, but it would be interesting to see how close they are. Okay, I've got 2 more minutes and then I need
Jesus,
to bail.
I hate these. Oh god. The thing is, he's abused the shit out of journalists, and I was the one who actually defended Max, and he's actually abusing those guys. So I'm not going to read.
But aren't you a journalist?
I'm not a journalist, but the bottler with his pathetic mind needed to win this rigged BS. So I think that is for Lando. I'm assuming. Finally, also Hulkenberg the GOAT. I agree.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there
I
any
hope we
more,
don't
or-
have anything more. Enough material. Okay. So yeah. We're done.
Cool.
And thanks guys. This one, we wanted to do a longer version of it, but both of us have to rush. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed.
To be
Thanks
fair,
for watching.
we still did 2 hours, so we're good.
Yeah, that's true.
Like
still went on.
we did cover Red Bull in detail. I just think both of us could rant about this Red Bull situation for 4 hours apiece.
Yeah,
So
we could
no
have.
matter how long we did, I think it was going to seem short.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We're going to have a lot of people being very happy with our
Can
takes
we
on
just
this
end
one.
with predictions on this? Just real quick, right?
Okay, go for it.
Let's do 2 quick predictions each. 1, does Red Bull get better or worse by the end of this season? Is the first question. By the end of this season, I'm saying now.
What is better?
Like just,
Because they are the second fastest car right now.
well, no,
What
because
does better mean?
George is clearly a car merchant, so that can't be true. Okay, right. I don't know how to quantify it, but just in whatever measurement you want, just do things look
vibes.
better. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, over under then here, the main question. Predictions on how long Mekies lasts before being replaced.
Oh. I think he stays until the end of 2026.
I'm going to say summer
That's
break
what, 18 months?
2026. Yeah. I think this time 12 months from now, he's being replaced by someone else. Like, I think.
I think by the end of 2026.
Okay.
But I also think there could also be a scenario where they see, because if the RBPT tanks, which I think it might, the Red Bull part, it might, we don't know, because a lot of work has been done there. If it tanks, then they know that they're basically cooked for the next 3 to 4 years. So they know that the next few years is going to be rebuilding phase. So maybe if the board is smart, yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah, like
As soon as I said the board is smart.
If that's the situation where next year they get to and they're like, oh, it's going to take us 3 to 4 years. It's just one of those situations where you're like, so why did you replace Horner then? Like, what were you thinking? Like, it's just all
They should have
roads
known,
lead
right?
to a I told you so, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So just, I guess better or worse, I'm trying to think what way to quantify it. But like, I don't know. Because, how much worse can it get? But
No, it can get worse.
yeah.
Look, they are the second fastest car right now. I won't be surprised if... I think there's a chance that a lot of senior heads, they start to roll by the end of the season. And if that is going to be the case, I think the team is going to be it's not going to be a pleasant place to be Red Bull in the next few months or so by the end of the season. That's just my take. I think we are heading towards a very, very dark phase for Red Bull. I don't know how long Marco sticks around. I don't know how long Max sticks around. But I think they've taken the foundation and ripped it off. And once you do that, you're not... I don't know. I'm very, very skeptical.
I just think it gets better for 2 or 3 races because everyone now starts going like,
what are the next
great,
races?
we've, Hungary, Hungary, Spa, and then maybe the Dutch Grand Prix, I think is when they come back.
Spa
Right?
next or Hungary next?
Spa next, I believe, right?
So Spa and then Hungary, right? Spa, they are going to struggle because you need both the straight line speed and a car that is great in the corners. They might struggle. I mean, they were brilliant last season, but they might struggle there this time around. Hungary, they're going to be in a bad shape.
Yeah. I think it's going to be 3 or 4 races where things are going to go well, and then it's going to
When is Zandvoort?
drop off. I think it's straight after the summer break, I think.
Oh.
I actually, we'll end this in a sec, but let's just do, because we talked about this at length, but neither of us, just final prediction. Mine is Alpine. Where does Horner end up?
If he's... Give me a second. I want to see what Graham Loudon's position is at Cadillac. Because they also have a... what do we call it?
I just don't think he goes to Alpine, Audi, or Cadillac because all 3 of them he'll be beholden to a board at some point.
He's what?
I just don't think, personally, the reason I wouldn't pick Audi, Cadillac, or Ferrari is that while I think he'll be given a good bit of leeway because of who he is, he's not going to be a part owner, I don't think, of any of them. And I think he's going to be beholden to the board.
No,
maybe.
Audi is going for the same Mercedes structure. They've said that.
So maybe they would, yeah. I think Alpine. But anyway, just quick fire.
Yeah, I think
Which
Alpine
team?
as well.
You think Alpine?
But I think Alpine will not be in the same...
It'll be a different name. Team Enstone. Let's just say Team Enstone. I think he's going to.
Yeah.
And I think Flavio and Horner running that, backed by Bernie Ecclestone, will be the best thing in the world. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Bernie, by the way, who was at the last Grand Prix, right? Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next week.
Take care.
Subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.